Hey everybody, this is Bill Murphy here with MMORPG.com, and today we're going to talk about Bloodborne. No, we're not going to continue telling you all about this awesome game that's only on consoles, only on PlayStation 4 for that matter. Instead, we're going to talk to you about some of the more hardcore, old-school things that Bloodborne does, like killing players frequently and penalizing them for those deaths, and how those sort of features, and yes, we can call them features, are actually lacking from today's MMORPGs. Not that we want to go back to the days of several hour-long corpse runs, but more than anything, we need challenge and complexity and the ability to learn from your mistakes in an MMORPG again. So, stay tuned. This is what we feel about Bloodborne and how it could teach MMORPGs a solid lesson.
Oh, here I am, just walking around. This is a great city. We like taking out the sights. It's pretty nice here. Oh! Oh, God! Oh! Why did you do that? I was just walking! And now... Oh, it's just... Ah!
And that, basically, is your beginning to end lifetime cycle in Bloodborne. If you haven't already played the game, let me spell it out for you. You die a lot in Bloodborne. You're going to die all the time. You're probably going to die hundreds of times before you beat the game. And here's the funny part. You're going to keep coming back for more. It's frustrating. It's painful. And it's still addictive and fun. I liken it in my review, actually, to The Prince of Persia, both the side-scrolling title from way back when things were still on floppy disks, and the more recent recreated version from the last generation of consoles, or maybe the generation before that even at this point. You would jump a lot in the Prince of Persia games, and oftentimes you would jump to your death. But it always felt like when you'd failed and when you died and landed on a pit of spikes in Prince of Persia, you did so because you failed. As the player, you failed to make that jump correctly. The same thing happens in Bloodborne. As a player, you fail to make the dodge. You fail to attack at the right time. So when you die in Bloodborne, almost all the time you're going to say, I screwed up. That was me. That's my bad. When was the last time an MMO had you die and actually make you feel like it wasn't just because you left your seat to go make a sandwich while you were casting a spell? MMOs aren't difficult. They haven't been for a very long time. And I think that's something that we're actually missing in MMOs these days. Not that they need to be mind-numbingly difficult or completely grindy to a point that nobody wants to play them, but the actual gameplay of an MMO, it would be really, really nice if there was some sort of challenge to it. When the games first came out, back with EverQuest and Meridian 59 and Ultima Online, there wasn't a lot of interaction that a player would really have with their character. You would point and click, you would maybe move with WASD, but the skills were all hot skills. They were almost turn-based. Everything was based on seconds. You were playing essentially a spreadsheet. What's your skill rotation? How do you defeat this mob? And can you do it before your health reaches 0? Now, as we're moving towards more and more skill-based capabilities with server latency coming down and the ability for servers to process more inputs from the player character, we can actually get to the point where mobs, and more so than just PvP, but actual computer-controlled mobs, could be difficult for us to combat. They could be hard. They don't have to necessarily run on scripted attack encounters. We don't have to say, well, this guy's just a trash mob. I mean, trash mobs are fun, don't get me wrong. There's nothing quite like playing a game like WildStar and taking out about 7 Skeech all at once with the one fell swoop of your two-handed sword as a warrior or something like that. That's fun. That's fine. There's a place for that. But if you play a game like Neverwinter, you're never going to die. You're going to have your healing companion with you. You're going to take on hordes of enemies that are supposed to be tough. You're going to have instant healing stones and potions and things like that, and you're just never going to die if you have any bit of capability whatsoever. So when I play a game like Bloodborne that actually makes me get better as a player as I'm working my way through the game and makes me enjoy it, that just makes me, as an MMO gamer at heart, sad that when I come back to my game genre of choice, I don't have anything to play that's going to give me that same feeling. Something that kind of gets close but also falls short is say Guild Wars 2. In Guild Wars 2 you're going to die a lot, but most of the time it leaves you dead and feeling like you died without knowing why you died. You don't really get what you did wrong other than maybe you took on too many enemies at once. In Bloodborne, it's completely different. When you die, it could be because you took on too many enemies at once, but maybe it's because you aggroed too many and you did something wrong when you could have thrown a stone or lured somebody away or taken one and dragged them away and stuff like that. There's a lot of different options is what I'm saying in a single player game like Bloodborne that we don't have in MMOs because developers haven't really tried to do that. My point is that we are getting to the point where server technology and game technology are getting far enough along that we can have complex encounters like you have in single player games in our MMOs. Now, we don't need to have thousands of players swarming a boss for a game, in my eyes, to be a true MMORPG. The small group encounters, the duo encounters, even the solo encounters can still be interesting based on how we control our characters and how the mobs are actually set up to combat our abilities. I want them to learn from us and what we do the same way that we as players will learn from what they do. You ever see that movie The Incredibles from a few years back by Pixar? I mean, of course, you're all geeks like I am. I'm sure you've seen it a million times. Syndrome makes a robot that learns as it's fighting. Wouldn't it be cool if there were an actual mob that would do something similar based on your class? It would know what kind of skills you might have at your disposal and try to work towards your weaknesses. Now, a whole other set of problems come in there that game designers are probably trying to deal with for years, because once an NPC computer-controlled mob gets too hard, nobody wants to fight it, and then your players are unhappy and they stop playing. So instead what they do is they give you things that you can predict. Everybody says, including myself right now, they say they want hard, they want difficult games. But the truth is, once we get them, more often than not, it feels cheap. So, how do you fix that for an MMO? How do you take the cheapness away, give us difficulty, and still make it so that it's enjoyable and we feel like we haven't wasted our time playing the game? To be perfectly honest, folks, I don't have the answer. I'm just here rambling because that's what I get paid to do. All I'm saying is I'm really sick of playing an MMORPG that doesn't challenge me as the player. I want to die, but when I die as a character, I want to know that I died not just because of my stats being too low or my gear not being good enough. I want to know that I died because of something I did wrong and I could go back and try again. And that is sort of my point. And the other thing, let's talk about something else in Bloodborne here. So if you haven't played Bloodborne, as we mentioned at the beginning of the video, you get what they call blood echoes, which is a form of XP from killing monsters and stuff like that in the game. And you then take these blood echoes and you can level up your character, you can level up your gear, just like you would in any other action RPG. The caveat is, in a game where you die a lot, and you will die, when you die in Bloodborne, you drop those blood echoes wherever you died. You can go back to get them, or maybe find the enemy who killed you who's holding on to them, judging by the glowing spots around his eyes, and if you kill him, you can get those blood echoes back. But if you don't get them before you die again, which is highly possible, you lose all those blood echoes forever. Now, doesn't that sound like a mechanic of old? Doesn't that sound like something we used to do in MMOs? Do you remember when dying wasn't just something you rolled your eyes at and paid repair bills and then made your way back to where you were questing, but when it was something that was actually feared? I don't want to lose tons of progress necessarily in an MMO, especially these days as I only have an hour here or there to play, but I want to feel like the act of dying isn't for naught at the same time. So finding that careful balance between too harsh of a penalty, like losing a level like you used to be able to do in a lot of MMOs, or losing an item or something like that. There's gotta be a way to make death feel like a consequence, like it has a consequence to it. And Bloodborne gets that right. I never felt cheated out of the XP. I've lost 10,000 blood echoes before, but when I lost them, I'm like, you know what? I can get those back. An MMO never made me feel that way. Instead, it feels like if I die and I lost something like that, I would feel like I can never get that back. So I'm not saying I want them to suddenly take away an item that I've been working hundreds of hours for, or a whole level that maybe I had to work 50 hours for, or something like that. But it would be really cool, instead of just putting me in a graveyard, having me resurrect, or whatever, if there was that mechanic that, like, hey, that mob now has something of mine, and if I hunt him down, I can get it back. You know, it's similar with the game Shadow of Mordor that came out last year. When an orc killed you in that game, when an orc captain killed you in that game, it became something of a vengeance quest to go after him and kill him, if not for anything other than to say you got your revenge and you taught him a lesson. So it would be really cool, I think, if we could transplant one or two of those ideas, or a mixture of the both, into MMOs to make death something that isn't necessarily feared, but doesn't feel like it means nothing. Well, folks, I've rambled on for about 10 minutes now. It's getting late at night. I'm going to put this video out there for you guys to talk about. You can tell me if I'm crazy. You can tell me if I'm absolutely nuts, or if this sounds like something you want to see in the next line, the next wave of MMORPGs. Once again, I'm Bill Murphy for MMORPG.com. You can follow me on Twitter at TheBillMurphy, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter at MMORPG.com without the dot. Thanks again. Have a good one.